Hello, a new episode of Agentic AI and DevOps with you today, where we actually gonna talk about Agentic AI in DevOps for the change. The previous episodes were foundational, where we laid the groundwork to talk about what Agentic AI is. And today, finally, for all of your practitioners, we're going to be talking how it actually applies to the real tasks that DevOps engineers have each day. With me today, Vladimir and Fernando. We are coming from Syrup Technologies, the company behind Boris AI DevOps teammate. Let's get to the news that we don't have today. To the main topic, let's go. So,
All right. Yeah, go ahead. And before we jump right in, just because technicalities jump when we are doing stuff, there you go. I see now a recording started. So I just wanted to make sure that we didn't miss your beautiful intro. I see it on my side just now, but let's jump.
yes, let's jump. We have a list of DevOps jobs that we compiled that AI could be applied to and being applied to with different level of success. And the first one, which you most probably heard of, is deleting your production database. It's we just need to clarify that, right? So there are news time to time popping up, someone just making hype saying, well, this AI tool or that AI tool deleted production database, but technically it was a person first giving AI access to the database, so not paying a second, not paying attention what it's doing and allowing all those actions, because generally it will ask you before it's running the tools, like remember our tools episode, now we can talk about that. So like the agentic AI gonna ask you, can I do that? And if you just let it to do whatever, well, it does whatever, and it does whatever in production, and that's the result. So use your hooks again, like listen our previous episode to prevent that. But it's just like people not paying attention. And like back in the days, I think a couple of years ago, there was a person who deleted GitLab's production database without assistance of any AI. So like seeing people saying AI deleted the database, it's like the same as saying console deleted my terminal, deleted my production database. Yes, it was you. Take the responsibility. Don't blame the tool.
But you can blame everything. You can blame Bash terminal, Terraform.
Yes.
Terraform deleted my database, not me.
Yes, bad Terraform. It's a bad Terraform.
But I think maybe we can bring, like I said, blast radius. In all of these cases, usually the dev, prod, and everything is in one basket. So just a matter of time when exactly production database is going. It's not it's happen or not. Just wait for it. It will happen just by design of a system.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been talking to some people using it and trying to put like hooks and things around. And I just got like an interesting story from the guy I was talking to. He was like, man, I could see the agent trying to go around the protection that I was putting against this kind of like remove files, right? RM commands and things like this, which I haven't experienced that. But he said, I saw it going around when I put like, don't do it. But like in a personal side, right, the way that I do this, like with Terraform, for example, I always have different sessions, right? The AI never has the credentials to change anything. It can generate the code, it can do the things. I review it and then I apply it, right? So I think in that way, I'm always like trying to stay away from letting it take the action in a live, especially in a live environment, right? Because yeah, you never know. I always think it's the same like giving the credentials to production to someone that just joined the team and maybe doesn't have the right decisions in mind yet to understand, right? So
yeah, that was more like to open it up with a little bit of humor. The next thing that probably is on everyone's radar is like code generation and like interaction with the code. that proved to be working really well, and that's why all those companies, Cursor, Anthropic, and others, doing very well right now, making a lot of money because like the code generation works well. You might heard from the practitioners around you that the infrastructure as code generation might not work as well compared to the just code, because the big difference between infrastructure as code and the code itself is that the code is, like, for instance, Python code is kind of stateless. You can test it end to end, or like you might still have a database, right, with the data, but like it's possible to understand the code and test it locally. While, like, for instance, with the stuff like Terraform, you have state. And you need to be state aware. So, like, like all those move blocks, remove, and in many ways, the AI might be generating state unaware changes that then might have a conflict when you're trying to plan or apply. It's possible to work around a lot around that, like if you use, for instance, Terraform skills, if you have your own skills, or if you use like one from, for instance, Anton Babenko, that one like making rounds, then you could smoothen out a lot of hard edges, but it is something that at least people were talking about. And while talking about the code generation, another use case which is useful, like if you need to figure out, like if you're not a developer working with this product, but you are DevOps or whatever you call it, platform engineer, SRE, and something is failing, or you need to figure out how things work together, you quite often can just jump in the repository, run a coding agent there, and it will explain it to you what that is. So you might not be as good as reader of the language, but like programming language, but this is like how you can use AI to make yourself familiar with what is it you are looking at.
Yeah, I think this is what I have seen usually when people say about this infrastructure as code is usually this idea of not a lot of context, and you just ask it to create something complex. You don't use a plan mode, right? So there is kind of, as you said, many things that you can put around that help a lot. And I think that's where we have almost everyone now using, right? You see these reports about adoption, like at least on that front, right, of code generation. The expectation is very high, like the numbers, right, of adoption rates and all.
Yeah, while doing the research, we found interesting figures that gonna be in the show notes with the links to the source, where the C-suite, like when asked how much AI they're using and like how much is like working, their numbers were like 3 to 5 times higher compared when people ask practitioners. So there is like a certain level of hype at the management level, like a lot of expectations on the efficiencies because of all the news that are very hard to escape. But at the same time, people who are on the ground trying to use the tools, they quite often see a different reality where the tool being sold to the company to do something, and then the tool does not work, or does not work as well as expected.
You mentioned that C-suite use it more like a separate. I can explain it actually, because the managers know how to delegate, and they know that the person who delegate the task can fail. So they think in advance that, oh, okay, you may fail in here and there. So they give a lot of instructions in advance. But practitioners, they usually iterate in a small chunks of information. Like they not think in advance. They just iterate and iterate and iterate. So if you know how to delegate, you can delegate longer tasks and basically use it more. Because you delegate more.
I do think that there is an expectation gap because of all the hype. There is a high expectations level to start with, and then you expect magic, and then the thing doesn't work, and you need to do a lot of hand holding, and it's like,
Yeah, I've been talking to also engineering managers, and their business KPIs attached to how much like is your team using AI. Check, like this is a KPI for managers. So that goes into this story exactly, right? Like if you ask management, it's like, yeah, everybody has Codex or Cloud Code or whatever it is. Now, are they actually getting more productive from that? And if you ask the engineers, you get the different story like you're mentioning, right? And I think a lot of times it's also about training and skills, right, for the engineers, because there is this expectation that you are technical people, this is a technical tool, everybody's going to figure out how to use it. So you give them the tool, but you don't explain to them how to actually use it, and then it doesn't work, right? People will try their own way, and then they don't get that 10x return that everybody talks about, and then it looks like, okay, this thing doesn't work. So I think there is a little bit maybe a gap in there as well.
While we're mentioning skills, I think that's like another category where we should bring up, because this is where the AI actually quite useful and working, is all the documentation and runbooks. They like the runbooks becoming a runbooks, like the books that you can run. Before that, you was targeting your runbooks towards the people, right? Yeah, science like. The runbook is something that you cannot wrap in the bash script, because things might go sideways. You need to apply a little bit of judgment here and there. So you're kind of doing the meat automation. You're writing step-by-step instruction to be executed by the meat computer, also known as a human. Now you have a tool that can apply a certain level of judgment, which means like you can start converting your runbooks into the skills, and your documentation becomes living documentation.
Yeah, which I think is cool, because usually engineers hate maintaining this kind of stuff, right? And then it turns into stale runbooks that, I don't know, you change the infrastructure and they're like, oh, shoot, we need to update, I don't know, 15 documents now. No one wants to do that. Maybe tomorrow, right? And
it's a kind of a requirement. If you work with a highly regulated industry, you must do it. But now probably this routine job can be delegated to some AI, because AI know about all the changes in the system. So if you know about all the changes in the system, you know the current state of runbook, you can just update it to a new one, so you can understand the gap.
Could be even easier. So like if you already have existing skill, you apply the skill, you run the skill, and at the end of the session, you say like, well, go reflect on what went good. Like, is there any gaps in the skill that would make the next run smoother? Like, have we learned anything from this run? If you just do that continuously, you have self-evolving documentation and self-evolving runbooks. Another thing, you as a person who writes documentation, like you need to think about the structure and stuff. But if you use like a grill me skill or anything like a grill me skill, where you instruct AI to interview you, like you say, like I wanna create a skill to capture how we do this, relentlessly interview me about what we do, then AI can do a lot of heavy lifting, and it just interviews you, and you get to alignment with your agent on how things are done. Agent documents it for you. You run it multiple times. Bam, the skill is done. So this actually it makes it very, very easy, and this is like what works very well nowadays. So if you're not doing that, I do recommend actually looking at that. You don't need to have any extra tools. It's more like techniques that you apply, again, that could be turned into skills if you want to help your team. So that's something that doesn't require much more than a little bit of willingness and ability to change the way you work.
And that can be super useful for senior engineers, right? Like you get grilled on how something works, and then that you can then give to the rest of the team, so they don't keep bugging you with the same questions all the time, for example, or they actually output the thing similarly to the way that you would do, right? So it's a nice one.
Yeah. One study I read on AI adoption, there was like a recommendation saying like, take your top performers and assign creating skills on them so they can document what they do through the skills, and then anyone else can do that. You kind of replicating the magic of those people. Obviously, that comes from their ingenuity, their experience. You cannot get all of it out of their heads, but like certain things you can.
You know how it look like? You ask a person to build a replacement of himself.
Yes.
Yeah, and that I have seen these images of people in factories, right, with a camera recording how they do stuff with their hands to train AI. So yeah, it brought back that same thought. But I think it still is the judgment, right? That thing, the experience, you can, let's say, codify steps, but it's not the same, right? But it's true. It brings that the feeling of like, oh, I'm outsourcing my knowledge here, and they won't need me anymore.
If you want to have a piece of news, there was like a news, I think this week or maybe last week, that Meta now started to record actions of their workers, how they interact with a computer, like with apps, how they click with the mouse, how it's being moved, the steps they take in the email and stuff like that. So to train their models. So yeah, skills is something that you do for your specific stuff, while like some companies actually take it a step further. Interesting time.
Yeah.
While on the topic of documentation, there is another kind of documentation that I'm actually quite good at, that again doesn't require much of extra tooling or anything, is postmortems, like writing postmortems. That's something that works pretty well, even with a very naive prompting. And that's something where we'll see AI being applied. So like that requires very little skill. You can just take some copy what you have in Slack, like even screenshot would do, maybe some logs from here and there, just dump it to the AI, and it will be able to construct the timeline and give you at least a draft version of the postmortem that you then work on. Like obviously you still need to have a human touch, because that's opportunity for improvement. So how do you improve? AI cannot decide that for you. But doing all that heavy lifting, the documentation that people don't like to do, that kind of removes the excuse.
Yeah, and is again, right, indeed the kind of thing that sometimes gets ignored, and now you can get it like always in place, right? And it helps a lot. So in that part is super useful.
Right. Moving on to the next topic, we spoke about the infrastructure as code, as like a lot of infrastructure people do. Let's call them like with one term that captures all of it, infrastructure people. CI/CD pipelines. Like very understandable. YAML nowadays is the language of CI/CD pipelines, which is highly structured, with very little in terms of being a programming language where the state is unpredictable, because it's very declarative. So you don't have a lot of imperativity in there, which makes it very easy to understand for the agent. So writing the pipelines generally works quite well. Troubleshooting the pipelines, if you have, like, for instance, GitHub CLI, could do magic. Like answering the basic questions, updating the pipelines. So that part what works pretty well, I would say.
Yeah, I have used that as well, and I think it's also a way to embed. You have seen very bad pipelines out there, right? And then this way you can also start to create these ones that can be reusable and kind of leverage more of the effort that you're already putting to improve other projects. So we have worked in certain projects with like 20 different repositories, and they all, like, some had pipelines or they didn't. And then you can kind of say, okay, this is kind of our standard of deployment. Let's adapt to, I don't know, it's a PHP, now it's an Node.js project. So, but the flow stays the same. And then AI can help a lot to just replace the steps that are needed, still keeping that same method, right, of deployment and the stages and all that. So that has been quite useful when working on projects.
One thing that also could be considered, like in scope of what we discussed just before, like with the skills, you can describe your golden standard as a skill. And then each time you step up into the new repository, you just like, well, run that skill towards that repository. And like, if there are any deviations, fix that. Done. And like, if you have a big zoo to maintain, you just do that, on a regular basis. Or Vladimir just today showed me the cursor automations. So what you could do is, like, if you have that skill and you can pull it in, you can run that on a weekly, monthly basis, and you basically just pull that skill, check if the repository deviates, open pull request to fix it, send a note. I mean, amazing. Yes, please.
Basically, maybe reports or reviews sometimes are good. Why it's better a bit with AI? So we can mix a deterministic and undeterministic approach. For example, for a security check, there's many tools in CI/CD which you can run, but at the same time, you can ignore some of the rules. In all of the tools, you have a kind of a low list, bypass list, whatever tool you use, this exists. Sometimes you apply some rule just to go through because it's no time or whatever, it's going to stick there. And this rule is going to be applicable for a whole life of repository. But with AI tools, they don't care about whatever you do. They just check it out and they understand.
They will flag it.
Yeah, they will flag it, yes, basically. They will understand this is a low list, why we are doing it. And they can propose you a small fix, actually, because maybe now it exists. In the past, a year ago, this fix does not exist. You have to bypass or whatever, but now it exists, and you can drop your. Basically, all the tools which you're checking and scanning is useful, but AI bring another vision to it, another way of checking. And any kind of automations are nice. Yeah.
That gives us another segue. So, like the security triage. I saw people building that security triage pipeline, so have different signals that would require SOC, Security Operations Center. I work with a person who is alone, and he builds 24/7 SOC with AI agents that basically troubleshoot stuff as it comes in, enrich the issues with the sources. With information from different sources, and then if the AI decides it's something worth looking at, then it kind of bubbles up to his attention. So that's
this helps so much, right? I think this information noise with these kind of things, and especially even if you get here there is an alert, but then you need to go through the whole investigation part to make sense out of it, and then come to the realization, this was actually a waste of time. So this is a super nice use case and low risk, right? I think if we circle back a little bit to what we mentioned in the beginning, this can, even if it gives you a thing look at this one, here's what I found out, and you're this was not useful. There is no risk for the application. It's not going to go down. You can actually teach it back, like you mentioned, Andrey, hey, this one was not useful. Here's why. So next time, take that into account. So I think this is where, for the type of work that we do, right, it is a very big leverage there to actually look at the thing that matters with a lot less effort as well.
Another category to bring to your attention that's seems to be gaining some traction, and people use it with different level of success as code reviews. So adding the AI-enabled code reviews to the pipelines to give a feedback on security issues, to give a feedback on code duplication, stuff like that. So that kind of depends on the information available to an agent and the context to judge it, as well as willingness to spend on advanced models, because I see you obviously want to have something higher than Sonnet for that kind of stuff. Even with a Sonnet on a high thinking mode, it's a lot of noise in most cases. So it could be expensive to run So I would say that's like falls in the category of still jury's out. It could be useful if done correctly, and it could be very beneficial, but it could be also quite expensive in order to, especially if people push a lot. So that could be get quite expensive quickly. That's one category. The pull request. I'm checking what else we have. Well, there is also incident investigation. So obviously, AI could be very useful in investigating the logs and getting to the point of it. There are also cases where people trying to apply AI to on call. And all kind of alerts, autonomous pre-triaging, let's say, that could also get quite expensive quite quickly, I would say. And like humans have alert fatigue, AI doesn't have alert fatigue, but your wallet have.
Wallet fatigue. Yeah. But when it comes to a lot of data, when, for example, you need to process a lot of lines of logs, it maybe looks easy for some humans because they just get used to it. When you look for some logs for several months over and over again, you just naturally start understanding them. But if you want to delegate the task to someone new employee and some new guy, they have no idea what they're looking for in that log. So there's tons of information to produce. But AI can help you to process these logs and also extract valuable and important data from it. Do not start from scratch next time. Like, it's okay, this time we find a lot of errors, but this error is not an error actually, so you can make a note for it. Time to time it exists, the error which is not an error. This is our common error from the hardware.
Tell me about it.
This is our normal error. Don't worry about that error. But you can instruct AI. First, it's extract the real situation because you don't have a previous experience. So it's give you, like I said, beginner's mind approach in the first iteration. You get a extracted thing, and after you can maybe even send it to another AI to finally fix that common error. Maybe you don't need it. Or just make a note like, this is our normal one. Let's keep it. And next time it's going to provide you a better result. And each time it's review the logs, it's going to learn on your logs and become that person who get used to the logs.
Right.
So because even persons can hallucinate on the logs, I would like to say. When you get used to it, to some information. So you have a pattern in your mind. And you may miss something that is important because you just over and over logs.
It's the same, like the biases in humans. It's like the same thing. Like AI hallucinations, like biases in humans, and like humans making mistakes. The same thing. No one is perfect, and in some ways, I seen that there was a study done that, like in a clinician setting, that AI was actually doing better job on diagnosing the people who are coming in to intense care than actual humans. So like the human success was like at 55%. The AI was at 67, but the catch there was that it was done based on the medical history and the text only. So AI didn't have any visual clues, and the humans we're still waiting for the world models to address that. So I think they will make a real breakthrough there. But even that, like 12% improvement, is kind of a lot, might mean someone's life. So yeah, in some cases, it's actually start to becoming interesting. Like the incident remediation is definitely something that seems to be attracting a lot of attention, like with all the AI SRE tools popping up all over the place, trying to tackle that. So with different level of success, we should say. Obviously, we're doing it the best, but and we are not even an AI SRE. Like we are not putting ourselves into AI, like with the Boris, we into the ISRE. Like we're putting ourselves in the category of DevOps teammate, and this is like the experimental areas that we have in the end of the list, but like autonomous remediation, like autonomous agents. That's like the North Star for us, because we want to be actually have something that could argue and take decision on its own. And that's where we're aiming, really. But that's, I would say, is still work in progress in many ways. Like, you definitely don't want your agent taking action on its own in production, trying to fix something, because precision is not there yet. You probably still want the agent to follow the regular path of changes getting through your pipelines, for instance, and like through the human hands-off, the reviews, and so on. Because if you just have autonomous things that running in production, calling API, I mean, you just have a monkey with a hand grenade in there, which will explode anytime.
Yeah, there's a lot of human context to this kind of stuff, right? Decisions that were made in the past that logically might not make sense, and then the agent might see that it was like, hey, this doesn't make sense, let me fix it, and then there you go, right? So I think the common thread for me across all of the examples, and leading very well to the end now of the last point that we are making, is still AI is still augmenting what we do, right? It's not replacing fully. So it accelerates a lot, but it's still, as the engineer, you look at the postmortem, you look at the code review. It's, if you trust the agent to do everything, like when you see this drop the database, is this idea that here you go, all the keys, do the job for me end to end. And then you get this kind of risks added to it, right? But if you use it as help me do my job better, then you get much better result, until we eventually get to our North Star, where it actually can do the whole thing in a reliable way without any bad surprises.
Yes, I think that's kind of wraps it up, like our short list of possible applications, not exhaustive list. I think we're kind of ending with the alert pre-triage. And the controversial point of view here is that I guess one of the areas that's going to change is observability as we know it. Because today, all of the observability tools build in a way so you would visualize big amounts of information for visual consumption that agents don't have with the models we have today. So that's like a mismatch. We humans have a visual capability of, reading the dashboards, but the agent doesn't really need your dashboard. It's like no use for them. It's about structuring information differently for the agent to be consumable. Like maybe like coming from time series to some other format, comprehending the times differences, because the time is flat for their eyes and they don't really have a perception of time, so you have to explain it to them. All of that needs to be changed, and I'm very curious about how it's going to change, because I'm really bad with observability. As a DevOps engineer, like I'm terrible. I kind of never wanted to do that. So if all of that stuff going away, I'm all for it.
But especially the dashboards, which are, as you mentioned, they're human focused. AI, yes, we know AI can understand pictures. We can copy pictures and AI will understand what we draw. But we don't need it. And the AI can work with the data in general, and maybe more with the facts, because the observability usually it's like a variance of visualize the metrics, because the metrics are collected in one way, and after us humans turn it in a different forms and when visualize in the end. So maybe if AI just get the raw data, it can find out and understand what's wrong without us connecting it point together. So I don't know, and never try to put like a Prometheus metrics endpoint to AI agent. What was gonna say? Just watch it.
Yeah, so I think that's basically what's going to have. So we would have like agents looking at the events. So we will have events and then reacting on events depending on the context. But how to make that economically viable, efficient, that's an open question. I would say that we would need to watch the industry. With this, I suggest wrap up for today. This short overview of the DevOps jobs where Agentic AI could be useful in May of 2026. Probably going to change if we are to do that next year.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Hope you got some inspiration on where to apply AI next time. See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.